You know how it goes. In this crazy world of online hype, something can become an absolute legend before anyone's even touched it. But what happens when that legend just completely falls apart? Well, today, we're going to dive deep into that powerful and, let's be honest, sometimes really treacherous world of influencer marketing. And we're going to do it by looking at the cautionary tale of a game called Project Motor Racing.
I mean, look at that title. You've seen stuff like this pop up on YouTube, right? The biggest disappointment ever. It's always in all caps, of course. But how does a game actually get to that point? How does it go from being the most hyped up, most anticipated title of the entire year to, well, that? To figure that out, we got to rewind. We have to go back to the very beginning, to a story that starts not with a failure, but with a promise that sounded absolutely perfect.
Right, so before the big crash and burn, there was the climb. And boy, was it a climb. See, the publisher behind Project Motor Racing put together this absolutely masterful hype campaign. I mean, it was designed from the ground up to make their game the only thing anyone in the sim racing community was talking about.
And it all kicked off at these big events, like the Sim Racing Expo. Key influencers got these exclusive invites to play early, polished builds of the game. And what happens next? Well, YouTube just gets flooded with first-look videos, glowing previews, you know the drill. This, of course, creates a massive wave of excitement. And fueled almost entirely by all this early praise, pre-orders just went through the roof. Everything was building towards that one moment of truth, November 25th. And if you look at the language they were using, wow, it was really telling. The game wasn't just good or fun. No. It was hailed as the new realism flagship. You had influencers just raving about its next-gen physics, these unbelievable graphics, the deep immersion. Some of them even went so far as to say the game felt so good it's finished. I mean, they were painting this absolutely perfect picture. And the community? They bought it, hook, line, and sinker. And then, launch day. The big moment. And that carefully, meticulously constructed dream of perfection, it collided head-on with a reality that was, well, let's just say it was very, very different. The disconnect was jarring, to say the least. That realism flagship everyone was promised, actual players were calling it an early access title. That whole so good it's finished line, yeah, that was met with incredibly unstable performance. And the next-gen handling? Turns out it was bogged down by seriously flawed physics. The gap between what was advertised and what people actually got, it was just staggering. And the problems were everywhere. I mean, players were reporting everything you can imagine. Unpolished menus, tons of technical bugs, really inconsistent vehicle handling. The AI was being called unfair and just plain broken. Performance issues were rampant across the board. But here's the real kicker. A lot of people pointed out this massive difference between the polished, perfect demo the influencers played and the buggy final product they just paid for. So, as you can imagine, the community's reaction was swift. And it was brutal. Over on the forums, you had players calling the launch a horror start. Some people were even asking if the whole thing was a scam. And you know what the ultimate sign of that frustration is, right? Refunds. Widespread refunds. The hype machine successfully sold the game, but the reality of it was driving paying customers away in droves. Now look, this wasn't just a simple mistake or a one-off bad launch. Not at all. This was the result of a very specific system doing exactly what it's designed to do. So it's time we pull back the curtain and look at the engine that powers these situations, the hype machine itself.
So what is the hype machine, really? It's a deliberate marketing strategy. It's all about using the massive reach of influencers, giving them early access to a game to generate a ton of buzz. And, this is the most important part, to secure pre-order sales long before the general public ever gets to test the thing. It's a system that, when you boil it down, prioritizes excitement over actual quality control.
If you really want to understand how this whole thing works, you just have to follow the money. It's pretty simple, actually. The winners are obvious. Creators, they get a ton of clicks, reach, and ad revenue from their exclusive first-look videos. Publishers, they get massive media attention and lock in those super important pre-orders. But the losers, they're just as clear. It's the players who end up with an unfinished, buggy product. And it's the community as a whole, because with every broken promise, that long-term trust just gets chipped away. And look, Project Motor Racing is just one example. We're using it as our case study, but this is a systemic pattern. You see this happen all the time across the gaming industry, the software industry, you name it. There's this immense pressure to generate buzz as early as possible, and that often leads companies to sell the dream first and then, well, worry about delivering the reality later.
if they ever get around to it.
So as a customer, it's totally understandable to feel frustrated by all this. I mean, who wouldn't be? But here's the thing. You are not powerless. You can actually turn that frustration into some real wisdom. The question is, how do you navigate this landscape? How do you avoid getting burned by the hype machine again?
Okay, let's talk about your hype defense kit. It's basically 3 simple but really powerful steps. Step 1. Learn to identify pre-release content for what it actually is. It's marketing. A first look at some carefully curated demo is not a real critical review. Step 2, and this one's tough, practice patience. Just wait for the independent reviews to come out after the game is officially launched. And finally, step 3, trust the wisdom of the crowd. Give it about a week after release, then check out the forums and player feedback. See what real people are saying.
But, this isn't all on us, the consumers. It's really a shared responsibility. Content creators have to be more transparent about what their content actually is. And publishers, well, they need to be held accountable for the promises they make. Honesty really has to become part of the equation for everyone involved.
When you look at the story of Project Motor Racing, it shows us one thing very clearly. Hype is a seriously powerful currency. It buys clicks, it buys attention, and it buys pre-orders. But it leaves us with one really critical question to think about. In a system that runs on all this hype, who's the one that really ends up paying for it?